Welcome to my channel. This is Intuitive Edge. So I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the times that we are moving into and kind of what is coming ahead of us. Now, many people are feeling these changes happening. Lots of people are seeing change in the form of chaos that we see around us. But there's something that, there's so much to unpack with this. I don't know where this is going to go, what I'm going to say. I hope that I get out what I want to say, because there's a lot here. There's a lot I want to say. And I just want to basically give some hope and some help for people kind of navigating through these crazy times that we are in right now. We're coming into a time when a lot, and this may be happening now for people already, but on a larger scale, we're going to be coming into a time where people are going to have to deconstruct the lies that they've been told all their lives, maybe, and things that they've always believed that now suddenly they don't believe anymore, or they can't, or this just doesn't make sense anymore. And that's very hard for people. Some people are going to have this kind of thrust upon them where they're going to be suddenly faced with, oh my God, I don't know who to trust. I don't know who to believe. I've known this XYZ all my life, and now it's something else. We're coming into that time. And that's because we're coming into a great awakening. Now, you can't be involved in a great awakening if you're walking around asleep at the wheel. Okay, if you're just walking around and you're just living your life and you're not awake, you're not fully cognizant and fully conscious of what is really happening, the bigger picture, then when life does hand you finally this wake-up call, it can be a really rude awakening. And I'd like to try to help it not be so rude of an awakening for people. I think that's part of my calling on this earth, believe it or not, is to help ease that transition as we awaken, okay? And I think I have some help that may help people. I think I've got some things based on things that I've learned. But again, it's not about following me or following someone else. It's about awakening that which is within you. Because ultimately, you're in your body and you have to live your life. And we all have tools that we can get. We have tools that we can borrow from someone else. And we have tools we can share. And so I'd like to share some of the things that I've learned over the years. And also from my experience in metaphysics and that kind of thing. Now, some of you know, if you've watched my channel a long time, I am passionate about something called natural law. And there's a lot of confusion as to what that is. So what I see as natural law is the greater spiritual law or principle that governs where we live and how we operate. Now, the reason I talk about this a lot is because it is so life-changing. And I think that when people come to understand the greater principles of what is happening, it will make their lives make sense, and it will make this transition into this great awakening that much easier on them. I do write quite a bit about natural law on my blog at intuitiveedgetarot.blog. So avail yourself to that. I'll try to leave a link in the description for my blog. One of the things that really opened my eyes was when I came across a 9-hour video. It was in segments, but it was a lecture that was given about natural law. And it's not just learning about the principles that govern our universe, yeah, that's interesting. It was learning how integral it is to my experience, to our experience, and learning how the human condition is so easily manipulated. Now, as we come into this time of Great Awakening and people are coming out of the fog, we are learning just how deeply we've been manipulated and controlled all of our lives. Things that we've thought, all of our lives that we thought were true. Suddenly it's like, it's not so clear anymore. As you're starting to awaken, you're like, man, what have I been told all my life? This is what's happening right now. When I saw the lecture on natural law, I realized how far humanity has been manipulated, our minds, our thoughts, and how much we've been controlled, and how much people really don't know how to think, and they don't think. Oftentimes we just spit out what we're told or what we saw someone else, and we go with the group. Groupthink is really big. And we go with what other people think. We go with what society tells us without really questioning the truth, without really seeking the truth for ourselves and really knowing what the truth is. And we're followers instead of stop and take a break and listen. And that's hard to do because we're distracted. We've got life, we've got busy, we've got jobs, we've got family, kids, school, whatever. And so what time do we have to really look at what's happening around us and get to the truth? And so it's so much easier to trust someone who they look trustworthy, they look like they know what they're talking about, and if they say that, well, I'll believe them. Well, sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't work out so well. And there's a level of discernment that comes along with awakening. You have to discern what's really happening in the world. When I say the word mind control, what does that conjure up in our minds? We think of somebody with wires strapped to their heads, and maybe they're look like they have electric stuff going through them, and they have a glazed over leg. What is mind control? What I've learned is that mind control is everywhere, and everything is aimed at controlling the consciousness, controlling the mind of people. Now, people don't necessarily want to think that, because if you think that, then you have to go, well, where does that come from and why is that being done? And that can get into some really crazy things. If you think about, okay, why would somebody want to control the masses and tell us what to think? Then you get into, is there a segment of humanity that somehow hates the rest of it? Are there really controlling people that are trying to control the world and control the rest of us? And if so, why is that? So there's some rabbit holes that people maybe don't want to go down that comes with the responsibility of being awake. I want to read a Q post that I think is very, very, it's spot on. It's just gold to me. This is the awakening. This is what it takes to wake up and to be awake and to not just go through life blind and let other people do your thinking for you. This is what it takes. This post is Q post number 3613, and I want to read it because it's good. And I might have to kind of deconstruct it as I go, just take it chunk by chunk. But I'm just going to read it. I don't have it to put up on the screen, so sorry you can't read along. You just have to listen to me read it. But it says here, this is from November 21st of this year. What happens when 90% of the media is controlled/owned by 6 corporations? What happens when those same corporations are operated and controlled by a political ideology? What happens when the news is no longer free from bias? What happens when the news is no longer reliable and independent? What happens when the news is no longer trustworthy? What happens when the news simply becomes an extension/arm of a political party? Fact becomes fiction? Fiction becomes fact? When does news become propaganda? So there's a lot more, but let's unpack that. Because this is so important to the awakening. Because what's happening now with this awakening energy that's coming in to the planet, people are waking up. We're suddenly realizing that everything we've been told all of our lives, or at least the majority of it, a lot of it, for some people, maybe most of it, is not what we thought it was, is not healthy, is not the truth. And when you awake, you're like, what happens? What is happening? A lot of people don't realize that there are basically 6 corporations that own all of the news conglomerates. And so is there a central theme at the top of this pyramid that is telling people down the chain what to think? Let's continue reading. This gets really good. Identity creation. How does the average person who is under constant financial stress by design find time to research and discern fact from fiction? And that's what we were just saying. When we're spending our lives, work, family, a job, got all this stuff going on, it's so much easier to rely on somebody who that's their job, is to be a news person and to provide the news. We expect them to do their job and to bring the news. And it's much easier to rely on somebody else to do that, and rather than to have to do all that extra work ourselves. So let's keep going. How does, majority of people more prone to believe someone in power sitting behind a big brand news name? Yeah, of course we are. Do people, human psyche, tend to follow the majority mainstream viewpoint in fear of being isolated and or shunned? Mainstream is used for a reason, to dominate trend in opinion. You think of that word mainstream, what does that mean? Mainstream, it means majority. Majority of people are having this opinion or this fact or presenting this. And if it's coming from all these different places and they're all saying the same thing, then that tends to dominate and form an opinion. And they can say something that, well, if the majority of people say it and think it, it must be true. If majority of people believe X, then X must be validated and true. And if you think about, if a local news company, there was a video that was put out, and a local news companies all across the country were saying the same thing. If you have somebody in Florida saying the same thing as someone in Montana, as the same thing as someone in Arkansas, and they're all coming together, and it tends to put this air that it is somehow reliable because more people are saying it. Okay, that is mind control. That is what's happening. It's mind control. That's how it works. Okay, let's keep going. Why do mainstream media heads within different organizations always use the same keywords and or catchphrases? All of these different news organizations saying the same thing, and they're using the exact same wording. Why are they all saying the same keywords, the same phrases, the same buzzwords? How can that be if they're all across the country? How can that be? local news stations saying the same thing unless it came from some source up at the very top. Is it coordinated? Yeah, it's coordinated. By who? That's the big question. Outside entity providing instructions? Do they count on the fact that people, human psyche, are more prone to believe something if it's heard over and over again by different trusted sources? So imagine, if you will, the top of that news pyramid. They know that humans will tend to believe something if they hear it repeated over and over again by people that they trust. So if they can send on down the line these talking points, and if they can have the news people repeat them to the public, and the public eats it up because they trust these people, that's called mind control. That's what we're talking about. That's mind control. Doesn't mean you're strapped up to electrodes, okay? But this is mind control, and they count on it. They count on people believing it because it's coming from a trusted news source. No, it's not. It's coming from the top. Somebody with an agenda. That's where it's coming from. Let's keep going. Do echo chamber tactics provide validation and credibility to the topic or point being discussed? Is that a threat to intellectual freedom? Yes. And they count on it. They count on the fact that echo chamber tactics. Oh, this person's saying it, this person's saying it, over here they're saying it over here in North Dakota, and they're saying it in Texas. Oh, it must be true because I'm hearing it all over the country. They're counting on that because that's how the human mind works. We trust people. We're trusting. We're genuinely trusting of others. Okay, let me keep going. Would control over or of these institutions or organizations allow for the mass control of a population's viewpoint on a desired topic? Of course it would. This is what it's about. Controlling the news is controlling the population. Disseminating from above, down the little branches, to all these little news organizations that say the same thing, it's controlling what people consume. It's controlling the population. Absolutely it is. Thank you says logical thinking. He's admonishing us to think logically about this. To think. Why, after the election of 2016, did the Democrats and media corporations jumpstart a coordinated and planned divisive blitz intended to create falsehoods regarding the illegitimacy of the election, the character assassination of Donald Trump through sexism, racism, and other isms, pre and post 2016 election? Why were violent masked terror organizations such as Antifa immediately created and funded? Had anybody ever heard of Antifa before 2016? I hadn't. And all of a sudden it popped up out of nowhere. And there was such a push. Everybody knows that in the mainstream media, the reporting on Donald Trump is about 95% negative. And it's when you watch them, I mean, I know what to look for now, but when you watch these news people, these news anchors, it's not everything that they're saying. It's their body language. It's the way they say things. It's the way they say things that leads, that you can tell they're trying to lead the person they're saying it to a certain conclusion. They're trying to guide you to a conclusion to make. That's mind control. That's mind control. When they're saying things in such a way that they're trying to make you think a certain outcome, a certain final result. Let me keep going. Why were marches immediately organized to counter and silence POTUS rallies and or events. And there was a lot of intimidation. Antifa was everywhere. They were demonstrating outside of rallies. They were infiltrating the Donald Trump rallies on the inside, trying to disrupt and cause problems, start fights. Why were marches immediately organized which divided people into sex, gender, race, and other isms? To divide people. When you control the levers of news dissemination, you control the narrative. When you control the narrative, it equals power. When you are blind, what do you see? So controlling that news narrative is being in control of the population, being in control and in power. That is where real power comes from. And nobody elected these people, right? But they're at the top and they're controlling what gets disseminated down. It's like, President Trump brings the attention to fake news and calling the mainstream media fake news. And Facebook and others are out there taking fake news and trying to not allow anybody else that is an independent journalist, but deplatforming them, taking away their voice. We're only going to put trusted news organizations. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem, is that mainstream that is controlled by a central few in this little pyramid up here. They're at the top, disseminating down. That's the problem. That's what we're trying to fight. And that control is they're trying to keep that control structure in place because it's power. They're in power. Let me keep reading. They want you divided. Divided by religion, divided by sex, divided by political affiliation, divided by class. When you are divided, angry, and controlled, you target those different from you, not those responsible, who are the controllers. Think about that. How many times have you seen these people, generally on college campuses, they try to bring some other people in? You would think a college campus would be a place where people can have diverse opinions and thoughts and want to hear from other people and learn. But it's not about learning. It's about this is mind control at its finest. When you don't want to learn from someone else, when you want to shut someone out because they're a racist. I don't want to listen to them because they're a racist. That's being mind controlled. You're being mind controlled. And you don't even see it. You don't even recognize it. And who are the ones who are the most angry? Those who are being controlled. When you see these kids, some of them on college campuses and elsewhere, when they're protesting and fighting and they're angry, they don't know what they're really angry at. They're just angry, and they think they're fighting in some injustice or some racism or something, but they're just being controlled. And the people in control want those others to be angry and controlled, because then they can manipulate them. It says here, going on, divided you are weak. Yes, that's the point. Divided, you pose no threat to their control because you're busy fighting other people instead of recognizing that you're being controlled and going after that and breaking free of your slave owner. Okay? These people don't realize they're being controlled. They're being mind controlled. They're being enslaved. When non-dogmatic information becomes free and transparent, it becomes a threat to those who attempt to control the narrative and or stable, as in where livestock are kept. When you are awake, you stand on the outside of the stable, that groupthink collective, and have free thought. Free thought is a philosophical viewpoint which holds that positions regarding truth should be formed on the basis of logic, reason, and empiricism, rather than authority, tradition, revelation, or dogma. And that's the end of that Q post. Is that golden? This Q post encapsulates what I've come to learn about natural law in learning how humanity is controlled, what our vulnerabilities are as human beings. And a lot of it is some know how to exploit our good nature, our willingness to trust others, our willingness to see the good in people, our willingness to want to get along and assume that other people are like us and want to get along with us too. And we don't count on the fact that some are preying on that and exploiting it for their own power, their own benefit, their own desire to be in control. I want to say something here that is going to push some buttons. And I want to push these buttons because they need to be pushed. So hang with me and bear with me because this is important. What comes to mind when I say diversity is our strength? Do you reach into the file cabinet of your mind and you pull out something that says, yes, I've got it right here. All the reasons why diversity is our strength. What if I was to tell you that that is a flat out lie? That it's not true? Oh, no, that's not. You can't say that. Of course it's our strength. It's a lie. Diversity is our strength is a lie. I'm reading from some notes. I wrote some things down because I didn't want to miss the key points I want to make here. Since when is diversity a strength? To think something through logically, you have to first stop with the automatic talking points. When someone says something like, that's a lie, diversity, our strength is a lie, you automatically come up with defenses. Oh, no, it's not. I've got this reason here, this reason. You got to stop with that. Stop with the automatics and think logically with me here. Think logically with me. How is diversity? How is being diverse? When Q says they want you divided by religion, by sex, by political affiliation, by class, they want you divided. The truth is, unity is our strength, not diversity. The powers that shouldn't be have taken that concept of diversity as our strength, they've twisted it around to make us think it's a good thing, to want our own demise. When we are divided, we are weak. When we are united, we are strong. Unity, what does that mean? Unity. What does it mean to be united? It means to be as one. It means to come in one accord. It means to my black brothers and sisters and my brown brothers and sisters and gay, straight, everyone coming together as one, united in our own humanity. Coming together, united as one, not divided. We're united. That's our strength when we're united. When we come together as one. When we throw off the fetters that bind us, those that are trying to divide us and keep us divided. It's not divided it's united we are strong. Unity is our strength. That's the truth. Wouldn't it make more sense to say unity is our strength, not diversity? Unity is our strength when we come together, united as one people, united, not divided by race, not divided by class, not divided by gender, united as one human race. All of us, humanity, united. Diversity does not unite us. Unity does. I wrote here, employers should send people to unity training, not diversity training. We need unity. Look at what diversity has done. It has caused nothing but problems. Take Germany, for example. Germany brought in migrants from the Middle East who had no intentions of assimilating into German culture. And it's caused all kinds, it's wreaked havoc on their culture, on their country. And the Germans were told, oh, you have to be inclusive and allow them this or that. And there's been no expectation on the migrants to have any type of desire or assimilation, assimilate yourselves into this culture. No. When you try to amalgamate different peoples, different tribes, and come together, it's not in being diverse, it's being united. It's coming together as a unity, not diversity. If there is no assimilation, there can be no unity. Only discord and disunity. And yet, the powers that shouldn't be want us to somehow believe the falsehood that diversity is somehow a great strength when it's not. Unity is. Being united together. This is all part of that up is down, black is white, green is red, the sky is pink world that we live in, where nothing is as it seems. And we're constantly told things that aren't true as though they are true. And this is part of that great awakening, is deconstructing the lie that we've lived under that tell us things like diversity is somehow a strength, to keep us divided, to keep us wanting that division within ourselves, within our cultures. And they say, oh no, they're trying to, no, they're not. If they were, they would say unify, become united, unite with your brothers and sisters, find that common ground. No, you have to accept other people and tolerate all these differences rather than unite. They're telling us, they're making it sound like it's unifying, but it's not. It's division. It's sowing division and discord. And they're couching it in language that makes it sound all fluffy and good, and it's not. It's not about unity. It's not about bringing people together. It's about exploiting division and keeping us all divided so that there's constant fighting. And if there's constant fighting between groups of people, when they try to throw people together and tell them, okay, you guys got to just tolerate each other and exploit their differences, then nobody's paying attention to the Wizard of Oz behind the screen, who's really controlling things and who's really making a mess out of things. Because people aren't looking for him. There's no little dog there to pull the screen back where we can say, oh my gosh, that's what's really going on, is this manipulation back here, telling us what to think. Dividing us down, dividing us. We're constantly being divided. The division right now in our country is off the charts. If you think about what we're seeing in the news and all the people who are just at each other's throats, ready to, right, left, are ready to tear each other apart, okay? That's not a strength to be divided. It is our strength to be united. And what unites us is to come back to our common humanity, the common humanity that unites us all. We all need food, shelter, love, a place to belong, a sense of belonging. And that comes when we unite and recognize and awaken to what's really going on behind the scenes that is keeping us at each other's throats and divided. Okay, I think I said enough on this. Hope you all have gotten something out of this. I hope this has given some food for thought. We need to be united in one common goal, and that is to take off the fetters that have bound us and are trying to keep us divided, and unite with a common goal to root out the corruption that has tried to weaken us through division. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Hope you've enjoyed the Q post I read also. Really good stuff. And take it to heart. There's a great awakening ahead. Hope you'll join me. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.